Hi, everybody. Today's topic is how do you know if your interview went well? Over over the years, um, having done having gone through, I don't know, 200 maybe or maybe even more interviews, I've picked up on some of the signs that the interview is going well, even though the first thing you have to know is almost all interviews are nice and somewhat friendly. Um, that doesn't tell you how well it went because the interviewer doesn't want to make things difficult uh, just because, right? It doesn't serve him or her any good to do that. So just because the interview is smooth, it doesn't mean it went well. But there are lots of telltale signs if the interview is going well, and it's not always very obvious. If you like the contents I'm creating, please subscribe because that tells me that it's helping somebody and that keeps me super motivated to do more videos every day. Okay, so first, I mean, we can talk about it in any order really, but before I start though, I want to tell you, pay very close attention to the last 30 seconds or minute of the interview. There are almost always clues about how it went because at the very end, if the interviewer says something like, "Oh, the next step's going to be like this," and gets into details of that, or the other way, the interview says, "It's been nice talking to you," but doesn't say much about the next step or whatnot, right? You can take a good clue from that on what the interviewer says at the very last minute or 30 seconds. That's a good clue about which way he's leaning. So, and that'll be more clear as we talk more about the details. First of all, as you went through the interview, the questions got harder. This is because if the interviewer thinks that you're good, then he or she wants to know how good you really are. Like, is there anything I missed that I want to ask, right? If I really go forward with this person, how much risk am I taking? So the questions got harder and harder. Or same level of difficulty, but more and more questions. Sometimes the interviewer is done with his or her questions, and he or she looks for things clearly is thinking of more questions to ask, right? Because he or she wants to be sure about this, right? So the more questions you get as the interview progresses, that's a good sign. If the interview lasted the whole time, especially if it's an hour-long interview, if it lasted the whole time, right? That's a very good sign because then that means the interviewer put his or her energy into the interview. If the interviewer talked about the next steps in detail, like this is going to happen next, that's going to happen next, and so on and so forth, and talks about how long the whole process should take, because sometimes the interviewer thinks that this interview went well, but he or she is afraid to lose you. So he or she will give a little warning saying it's going to take a couple of weeks to get through the whole process. But without saying it, he will try to get the message across that hang in there, you're doing good. Don't give up. Keep doing it, right? Especially if the process is very long. Um, I mentioned this already, but if the interviewer is talking more deep, oh no, I didn't actually. If the interviewer, this is kind of not very common, but sometimes the interviewer actually give you hints about what's to come, what will be asked of you in the next set of interviews, because he or she wants you to kind of pass, has a chance of passing the interviews, the next set of interviews, right? So, and the last thing I will say is if the questions are multifaceted, what that means is first maybe there was a set of technical questions, then maybe there's non-technical questions, or there are questions about project management or scenarios, right? The question types kept getting changed. That's a good sign because that means the interview thinks that you passed one of the pillars that he or she is looking for. Now he or she is moving to the next pillar and the next pillar and the next pillar of the requirements, right, of this role. So these are some of the signs that you should look for. If the inter if you see these signs, that means that your interview went well. All right. I hope you got something out of this video, and I will see you in the next one.